it's Kendra from Crafty Kendra, and today I'm going to show you how to make this card. So let's get started. This card uses the So Sweet stamp set from the Occasions Mini, and we're going to be using the spool of thread and this sewing machine from this stamp set. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring in a scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock and our basic black ink pad. We're going to go ahead and stamp the sewing machine onto our scrap piece of Whisper White and set that aside to dry. And this piece of Tempting Turquoise measures 3 inches by 2.5. And what we're going to do is we're going to take it in our hands and we're just going to crumple it up. And I've already gone ahead and done that with another piece. And what we're going to do is just going to smooth it out. And we're going to take our basic black ink in that sewing machine and we're going to stamp it towards the bottom on this blue piece and set it aside to dry. Next thing we're going to do is bring in a 5-inch by 3-inch piece of Certainly Celery and our crumb cake ink pad. We're going to take our spool of thread and we're just going to stamp it across the paper. And we only need to worry about covering most of the left side. Then we're going to take our sponge dauber and our crumb cake and we're just going to sponge the edges. Okay, when we're done sponging the edges, we're going to bring in our embossing buddy. We're going to run it across the left side of this piece. Then we're going to bring in our Stampin' Up jig and the Happy Birthday stamp from the Hostess set from the Occasions Mini called Something to Celebrate, and our Versamark. I've already gone ahead and stamped the Happy Birthday on a piece of vellum. We're just going to line it up on the bottom left side of our piece of Certainly Celery. Line up our Stampin' Up jig with our vellum. Pull the vellum away. Ink up our stamp in the Versamark and stamp straight down and straight up. Now we're going to bring in our powder pal trays and our white embossing powder. We're just going to pour the embossing powder over where our words were. And tap off the excess. Cutting pad and our heat tool, we're just going to heat it up. And we're going to flip it over and heat it up on the back side to kind of undo some of the curling. I'm going to set that aside. Going to bring in our sponge dauber and our Certainly Celery ink. And that scrap piece that we stamped our sewing machine on. Gonna ink up a sponge dauber, just lightly tap over our sewing machine. This just gives it a softer colored look. Okay. Gonna take our scissors and cut that out. Now when you're done cutting that out, you're going to bring in your Perfect Plum Stampin' Up marker, the brush tip. You're just going to color in some of the details on the sewing machine. Gonna set that aside. Next thing you're gonna do is bring back in that certainly celery piece and the Tempting Turquoise piece that we crumpled and stamped our sewing machine on. Gonna flip it over, and using our snail runner, we are going to flatten it out and add snail to the back. And since we've crinkled it up, remember to go slow with your snail runner, because it likes to come up. Okay. And then adhere it down to the right side of your certainly celery piece. And you might have a little extra on the top, and all you're going to do is flip it over, take your scissors, and trim it off. When you're done trimming off that excess, you're just going to take your finger and rough up the left seam of that piece of Tempting Turquoise. Then you're going to bring back in your crumb cake ink pad and your sponge dauber. Just going to touch up the crumpled edge and sponge the sides. Then you're just going to lightly rub over the Tempting Turquoise just to pick up some of that crumb cake. Going to bring back in that sewing machine that we cut out. Flipping it over, we're going to add some two-way glue to it. We're just going to line it up with the stamped image. Okay. Now we're going to bring in 2 jumbo eyelets, and these are the pewter eyelets, and our crocodile, and using the 3/16 inch hole, we're going to come in about 1/2 inch from what is the top of the piece of cardstock, and we're going to make 2 holes spread out evenly along the top of this Tempting Turquoise piece. Push our eyelets through the hole. Then we're going to use our crocodile, and we're going to set these eyelets. And as you can see, it set the eyelets for me. Now we're going to take and put some dimensionals on the back of this. Okay, remove the backing. Going to bring in a piece of Perfect Plum, and this piece of Perfect Plum measures 5 1/4 by 3 1/4. We're just going to put some snail on the back of it and attach it to our card base, and our card base measures 5 1/2 inches by 3 1/2 inches, and it's Tempting Turquoise. Just going to center it onto the front. Then we're going to take the piece that we popped up on dimensionals and center it on top of the Perfect Plum. Going to take a piece of Whisper White cut at 5 1/4 by 3 1/4. Add some snail to it. And this is what goes on the inside of our card. And that finishes it off. And that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks.